have a multiple evaluation. And I will say that in this room, your evaluations from the floor and your questions from the floor can be quite hard. This should not be the pat you on the back, well done, you did super well, beginner's room, okay? This is much more challenging those who are experienced speakers. So that will be part of the program in this room. In contradistinction, you will be handled far more nicely by the wonderful DTM, Vusi, and you will be handled beautifully and gently by DTM Lynette in the newbie room. So that's how I'm going to set the expectations for tonight. The Toastmaster is also going to deviate from the normal role. Tonight's Toastmaster is from our club, Stefan, Jansen van Rensburg, and he's going to give you more details about this evening. I welcome you. I hope you have a good night. Try not to make too much noise if you're flipping between one room and another, please. And just enjoy the show. And of course, I forgot my first job, which is to introduce our area director, Vusi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam District Director joining us online. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to greet you on this august occasion. This occasion symbolizes the effort of the Pret Advanced Club, the rest of the division, to make sure that we have a great experience and a great year as the division. We are excited, I'm excited, the division is excited, the entire district is excited for us to host this event. They are fully behind us, and I hope you are all excited, energized, and expecting a great evening today. Thank you. Thank you so much, numbers and all. Yes, they're exciting to see so many people joining us today. One of the things that I must remind all of us is that we are on the verge of great things as the division. But this will depend on our focus as the entire division. Where are we focusing? Where is our goals? This brings me to the renowned psychologist, an Australian psychologist who retires. In his profound observation of motor racing, of people who drive, he makes this comment that those, as they drive and they observe the obstacle, they are locked into that obstacle, they will collide, they will hit a collision course, or they will hit a barrier. Hence, they always advise anyone who's a driver, be on the racetrack, that every time you are facing a collision, always observe in the direction of your goal. Don't look in the direction of the collision, because otherwise you will hit a collision course. I practically observed this 2 weeks back when I was at the racetrack right here in the raceway, next in Midrand. We were driving his latest hybrid Golf 6, Golf 7, right inside. The instructor was next to me. And as you are driving on the skid pad, you are scared because you are about to hit an obstacle. Look where you are going. Scared and all, but looking into the direction of where you are going, realize that escape should pause. The question is, which direction are we looking at as the division? We're looking at the obstacles that we are going to face this year. Are we looking at the challenges? And any blame or anything that we want to blame, or are we looking at the direction of our goals and our dream? I can assure you, Mr. President, that the actions of members over the past 2 months have assured me that we are indeed looking in the direction of our goals. Some of these initiatives are people who came up with a coaching program to coach coaches for the division. Today, it is an example of the initiative, again, that shows that we are looking in the direction of our goals and dream. So many actions with various clubs offering a niche for certain specific individuals, like your visionary leaders, where they focus on authors, those who want to tell their stories. That is an example that this division is looking in the direction of their goal. So ladies and gentlemen, this year, we as a division have said that we want to become a vibrant division. And this is part of the vibrance we are talking about. We spoke about dynamic, and I've already highlighted the different efforts that have been done by each and every one of us to make sure that we become a dynamic division. We said we want to grow as a division and we want to have excellent clubs. So that is the direction that we are taking as a division. So I'm excited and I can report to Madam District Director that indeed come the end of the year, we will all celebrate as one, celebrate our successes because we have not consumed our energies with obstacles, but we've focused on our goal. So ladies and gentlemen, we've themed and said, this is the year of excellence in leadership. That is our hashtag. By excellence in leadership, it means every individual will have to stretch themselves on their own right, leading self, leading friends, leading families in the community. The rest of the city is looking up to us for hope, for inspiration. Many men and women who wants to tell their dreams, who wants to say something, who wants to take something, their potential, anything that is inside of them, they need our help to prepare them to change the society. But this can only happen if we look in the direction of our goal. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Vusi. It's very kind of you, and I shall promote you to Division Director with immediate effect. So, welcome to all again. I also failed to say welcome to those folks who are joining us online tonight. I'm sorry that you are not able to interact back with us. You'll have to throw your virtual tomatoes. Other than that, I am going to welcome now our Toastmaster for the evening, Mr. Stefan Jansen van Rensburg.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Wow, what a crowd. We could only see those online and we've been much better. I first want to do a small thanks to everyone involved. It's not a singular club that made this event possible. So I first need to tip my hat to everyone to say thank you for their part. All right. Now, I've got a little quarter German in me from way back when. So I'll try to make sure that we keep on time. But with the spirited welcome that we had now, I just need to say, let's embrace this evening with the potential of growth and seeing what is potential to grow and make further our communication and our leadership. I want us to engage actively, offering encouragement and being supportive. Yes, we need to be cruel to grow sometimes, but let's be considerate to each other. Without any further ado, I think it would now be prudent if we all then adjourn to the respective rooms. Thank you. So we'll just give a minute or two for everyone to just settle into the respective rooms.
Sorry, what's up?
All right. It seems like most of the people have moved out. I'm going to ask everyone just to take their seats. Wow. We're going to have a little bit of fun. All right.
In order.
Right. All right, so I'm going to ask everyone just remain calm, keep calm, deep breath in, deep breath out, and let's start this evening. So I want to introduce our first speaker, Sibongiseni Mgolozeli. And he's going to give us a speech on how to defeat the monster. How to defeat the monster. Sibongiseni.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you. Pardon, before I start, I'm supposed to clear my throat.
Sorry. Apologies. That is one glaring mistake that I've omitted. Is just a little bit about the format. Is we have, because we're a multi-club evening and it is administratively very cumbersome. We ask every speaker to just calm their nerves with a minute speech of clearing their throat, getting ready, making sure that the sound is ready, everything is ready and right. We'll then just make a little annotation to the timer to start the timer, and then the speech will start. Apologies for that. Vusi.
Mr. Timer, can I see your hand? Or is Madam Timer? Okay, we have two timers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I need to start with the purpose of my speech and give a brief background about what my speech is all about. So I have a 15 to 20 minute speech. I'm trying to practice a keynote address here. This is my Pathways Level 4 project, speech number 2. I'm supposed to speak for about 15 to 20 minutes. The goal or the purpose of this speech is that I need to learn how to facilitate the Q&A session. So please keep this in mind. After the 12th to 13th minute, I will finish my talk, and then please be prepared to ask at least 1 to 2 questions. So I'll allow only 3 questions so that we do not go over time. I guess that's okay, right?
That's great.
Anything else I need to mention, I guess, is right, Madam and Mr. Timer, I am ready on my side. I guess let's begin. In my journey of personal development, I have learned that each and every person has a dream to become successful. Yet most people never accomplish their dreams. What do you think is the number one thing that stands between most people and their dreams? Mr. Toastmaster? Yes, ma'am?
Fear of failure.
Thank you. That was a rhetorical question, by the way. But you are right, you are correct. Let's continue. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow dream chasers and guests. I believe that the number one reason, the number one thing that is holding us back from becoming successful is the feeling of inadequacy, popularly known as the imposter syndrome. According to this book, imposter syndrome is a monster, and I find that metaphor to be very powerful. I grew up with this monster, but it got bigger and brutal just after winter holidays in my first year at university. I remember I was sick with flu, and my roommate had just returned from the winter holidays with a wide variety of cold and flu medication. I woke up in the middle of the night at midnight with a dry cough. Sweat was dripping down my throat. I was shivering in cold, and I was starving. I remember very clearly that night, my mind was not in the right place due to the cold and flu. In the middle of my misery of having that pain in my stomach and pain in my chest due to cold, I had to try and limit the cough. So what I did, I took medication. Remember, I was hungry. That night, we fasted by default because we did not have something to eat. But regardless, I took medication on my empty stomach. Only God knows how many pills and spoons of cough syrup I took on my empty stomach. Back then, I was skinny like a skeleton. The next morning, I woke up and went straight to the bathroom. I was feeling old and weak. When I looked in the mirror, what a horrible nightmare. My face was pale, my lower lip turned all pink, and the color had even extended to the upper side of my upper lip. To make matters worse, this color had also developed on both sides hands of my knuckles, on both hands as well as on my toes. And honestly, I thought I was developing vitiligo. But I thank God, ladies and gentlemen, that my condition did not get to that level. It was early in my adult life where it was important for a boy child to start dating and prepare himself for marriage, and in the process, develop excellent communication skills that will later prove to be important in life, more especially public speaking skills. But which university girl would agree to date a skinny boy with pink lips? How was I even supposed to present in front of other university students? How about also passing my oral exams? The monster within me, fueled by insecurities, by guilt, by doubt, and fear, reminded me of my flaws and imperfections and kept telling me that I would not make it to the presentations and I must just forget about passing my oral exams. Despite all of that, I had to remind myself of who I am, where I was, and why I was even there. I had to remind myself why I was there, how far I have come to be in the first year at university. And that realization alone helped me to focus on the most important thing, which was to pass my degree in record time and not dating. Dating would later come on in life as I am now a university graduate. Fellow Toastmasters, in the midst of my misery and mockery to this monster at that time, I had to find a way to defeat this monster called imposter syndrome. And I remember I had to develop and launch a success code that would help me to cope with this syndrome at that time. And the code was 111. It stands for one core belief, one core value, and one core principle. My core belief is that I am limitless. That means within the confines of my own dreams and aspirations, there's nothing I cannot do. There's nothing I cannot have. And there's nothing that I cannot be. That belief alone, I wrote it in the first draft of my book called Speech Checklist. I had to write it down to let the world know that from now onwards, I believe that there's nothing that I cannot achieve as long as I apply my mind to it and I commit to it. Let's go further to my core value, which is humility. Mother Teresa is often quoted saying, humility is the mother of all virtues. And my core principle is self-discipline. It is defined as the ability to do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. One core value, one core belief, and one core principle. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the first strategy that I used to develop and defeat the monster. I'm going to share two more strategies that I've used. Perhaps they can also help you to defeat this monster in case you are suffering from it. The second strategy I developed recently, and it involves my favorite card of all times. By show of hands, please, I would like to find out from you how many of you have seen live a trick, a magic trick that involves a playing cards, just by show of hands. Now, how many of you have never seen live a magic trick that involves playing cards? Okay, I see you all. Unfortunately, for those who have never seen a playing card, a trick that involves a playing card, I must say I'm sorry. This is not a day to play guitar for you. I am not a magician, and I sincerely apologize for giving you false hopes. I'm not going to perform a magic trick, but I just want to show you why and what is my favorite game card of all time and why that is the case. My favorite game card of all time is the Ace of Spades. A simple phrase that involves two acronyms, Ace and Spades. On the one hand, we have Ace, which stands as my affirmations. A in Spades stands for adequate, C stands for capable, and E stands for enough. On the other hand, I have spades, which serves as my achievements. Achievements validates affirmations. Achievements validates affirmations. As for me, my achievements, they serve as evidence that I am capable of achieving anything that I set my mind into. In case you are wondering, what does each and every letter in the acronym SPADE stands for? The S in SPADE stands for speaker. I am a trained public speaker through Toastmasters. The P in SPADE stands for podcaster. I am the host of the Reconvening podcast. We have a mission to promote the reading culture within the African continent and beyond. Our vision is to see each and every African home with a bookshelf. And as long as that bookshelf is bigger than your television screen, we are happy. Now, the A in SPADE stands for A for author. Obviously, I'm the author of this book, Speech Checklist. The D stands for doctor, not the medical doctor, but a PhD, which stands for put him down syndrome. I'm joking, it's a doctor of philosophy. And the E in SPADE stands for entrepreneur. I'm into real estate business, and some of the things that I sell is my book, obviously. Then the S, which is my favorite in SPADE, the last one is student of life. I committed to become a student of life when I heard the following quote for the first time by Rita Levi Montalcini. It states that the quest for knowledge is a never-ending adventure, and every discovery opens up new horizons of possibility. Again, the quest for knowledge is a never-ending adventure, and every discovery opens up new possibility, new horizons of possibility. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the second approach or the second strategy that you can use to defeat this monster in case you are suffering from it. The third and final strategy I would like to point to this slide to show you how you can perhaps use it and defeat the monster. So I'm going to show in the slide the symptoms and telltale signs, first and foremost, to identify if you have this monster and what you can do to defeat it. So the first sign of this monster is insecurities. If you ever feel insecure, then perhaps that is the first sign. If you ever feel doubt, that perhaps in your journey of pursuing your dreams, you feel like you will not accomplish them, that's another sign. If you feel guilt, that perhaps in any of your previous accomplishments, you felt like they were a fluke, and now you feel like a fraud, that could be another sign. Last but not least, fear. You have your dream, but you fear pursuing your dreams because you feel like you might fail. Could be fear of failure, fear of being ridiculed, or fear filling the blank. Now, before I move to the final point, ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. I am someone who likes to swear in private. But I promise you, I don't swear in public, more especially in a Toastmasters meeting. I want you to identify but I'm not gonna say it out loud. Please pay attention, but I don't have time. I just want to add, whenever you feel any of those symptoms, any of those feelings, one thing you must know, they are all feelings. I want you to say, whenever you feel them, I don't give an F about how I feel. But instead, just say F it and launch into action. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the subtle art of not giving an F. The counterintuitive approach to living a good life. I'll end my speech there. Let's take some questions. Thank you. All right, 3 questions. I'll take 1, 2, and then the last one. Okay, let's take 2. Okay, let's start with the ladies first.
So my question, because you're talking about imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Which is quite key. But for most of us, we suffer from people syndrome, whatever you think about what would I make this mistake? So given the different abilities that we take to sort of accomplish the mission of like having self-reliance and self. So for a person that is like suffering from this people syndrome and on top of the imposter syndrome, how would you advise them to sort of like engage the way you are engaging?
That is a very good question. I love it. So the first point I would like to advise, whether you're suffering from people syndrome or imposter syndrome, is to start digging deep into the core of your being. What I found in my research is that it could be a trauma or any underlying circumstance that is causing you to have that syndrome in the first place. So if you address the core, meaning why in the first place do you suffer from it? There was a cause. Perhaps in your earlier years in your life, you underwent a very difficult situation that hasn't been addressed at this stage. Some of us have been through traumatic experiences. And for me, as someone who was suffering for a long time from that trauma, I had to seek counseling. And it was through counseling that I learned what was Botha. In my book, I even wrote that I suffered from the fear of public speaking. So counseling was the #1 thing that I had to go through to help me actually not only overcome, but to learn how to manage it. So just find out, ask yourself, what have I been through in the past that could be probably causing this syndrome that I'm currently facing right now? And if it's something that you cannot answer on your own, please seek counseling. Thank you. And then the second question.
All right. Thanks, Sibongiseni, for that. It's a very powerful speech that you just presented. We learned so much from it. The whole imposter syndrome. Even today, earlier on, I was in a conversation with someone who appears to be suffering from an imposter syndrome. So I had to reinstate, some of the positive affirmations that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
So I need to know something that when an imposter syndrome, I feel there is something maybe that's not really affecting me. I feel, through my life experience and anything else that I went through, I've sort of wanting to strengthen my confidence, but something I struggled with that is almost close to the imposter syndrome is procrastination. I but when I have something to do, I'd be like, no, let me just watch the video. I think that there is something I'm suffering with, and what is it? So with some of the tips that you shared with us, like the 111 code, that we can borrow from the imposter syndrome and apply to the problem of procrastination.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, my time is up. Or is there another question? The timer, do we still have time or is time up? All right, no more questions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that very enlightening speech. Now, we need to give Dr. Sibu a couple of minutes to just formalize the evaluation, unless you tell me you're ready.
I'm ready.
That helps me tremendously because we are close to time. So I just want to do the one thing quickly. I want to get the timers reports and the grammarians report. We start with the timers report. 15 minutes, 29 seconds. Thank you very much. And the grammarians report.
Toastmaster speaker in a very high command of English. One little recommendation was, he mentioned the ACEs, when he was describing the acronyms. What does the A in ACE stand for? Maybe a better way of doing it. What does the A represent? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much. Just for our online colleagues, the grammarians recommendation would have been just for, instead of what the A stands for, is what the A represents in the acronym. Thank you for that. And then Dr. Sibu, if we can then please come up for your formal evaluation of Sibongiseni's speech.
Good evening. I will have to say this is a difficult speech to sort of evaluate because the way the speech was sort of crafted, it was well crafted. But I do have some few nuggets that I sort of picked up in the speech because when it started, I like the fact that it started first with an insecure individual who was still at school. And I mean, all of us that went to varsity, you know how when you are to varsity, and you are having this weird cough. And I like the fact that the presenter sort of gave us a gesture that was having this cough. And linking into the, what can I call Levitical, the changing of the skin, it's quite critical because as a Black child, you know that if, for example, you are albinism, you are seen as a out of space creature that needs to be sacrificed for people to get rich. So his fear was actually real because that means that you would have sort of become the token of people having become prosperous. And I like the way you sort of break it down with different analogies for those that are game cards. People gave us the piece of spades and all of those things. For those that are philosophers, he gave us a narration whereby he made the use of the presentation, bring us back to hear what he was saying about the importance of how one can sort of battle imposter syndrome. But one thing, given that the speakers got a loud voice, try to sort of have a distance between the mic, because every time when we were emphasizing, I felt as if my heart was going to jump out of my chest. and for a moment, but I would have to say for this speaker, yeah, you are ready to become a keynote speaker. And you should continue doing what you're doing. I love the use of languages and actually building as well like acronyms, because now I know that when I'm in a braai, I can sort of use the acronyms of ACE. Like, for example, adequacy and enough and all of those things. So that being said, I'll say, well done. Keep it up. It's just that mic. That's the only thing I can say because this was a well-crafted speech. It's sort of hard to sort of find any shortcomings in the speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sibu, for that wonderful evaluation. Moving along swiftly to try to get back, claw back a little bit of time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Fernando Azevedo, with How Green is Green. How Green is Green, Fernando Azevedo. Just give him a minute to just set up. This was connected. Ready to go? Right. Very good evening, everybody. Okay, ordinarily I deliver this lecture to technical people and to engineering students, and it's normally half an hour long. I've taken away most of the technical jargon, and I've taken away all the equations and all that, and I'm going to do my best to deliver this as a layman as far as possible. That is part of my practice for today. If I could ask it's 10 to 15 minutes, correct? Okay, 12 to 15, right. Can I please have the green light at 10 and just follow my phone? It should be all right. Can people online hear me if I don't have the microphone? They can. Yes. So. And at the timer, we're ready. Fantastic. Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit about myself. My name is Fernando Azevedo. I am a professional mechanical engineer. I have done extensive postgraduate work in environmental science, in structural dynamics, and in flow dynamics, and heat and mass transfer. I have recently moved into the realm of oil and gas and power fuels and green energy. Now, being an oil and gas man, I have some issues with green energy. So as green energy may as well be called I-energy or Apple energy, because it's twice the price and does half of the same thing. But let's move on. Let's start with the wonderful arbitrary definitions of green energy. We have clean energy, which focuses predominantly on air quality. We have green energy, which means no harm to the environment, no harm to any bunnies or rabbits. I am a tree hugger, just let me point out, I'm a tree hugger, not a bunny hugger.
for me, bunnies are best slow roasted or braised over 2 hours. And then we have renewable energy, which are sources that can be replenished naturally, that is without man's interference. My favorite topic. My issue is, where are the boundaries drawn for what is defined as green? So we can have hybrid cars and electric cars, they're green, technically. But they have to be charged. Their components still have to be built. And they still have to be driven around. So who decides where the boundaries are between what is green, what is renewable, and what is grey and what is blue? Quick question. Who here knows what grey hydrogen is? Yes. Go for it.
So grey hydrogen is produced by using fossil fuels.
Yes, that's horrible word, fossil. It's absolutely right. And what is blue hydrogen?
Blue hydrogen is produced by using nuclear. I'm not sure.
No, that's turquoise hydrogen. Yes, there's a whole rainbow. It's lovely, it's fantastic. It's lovely. Yes.
Probably from water.
No. So blue hydrogen is hydrogen where the carbon is captured. That's it. Okay? But it's all right. We're having fun. We're having fun. I'm going to be nice. I am now going to give you guys a few numbers, and I'm going to try to do this without confusing everybody and causing a whole bunch of a kerfuffle. So do we need to defossilize? We've got these numbers from the IEA and our world in data. You can follow along if you, or you can question me. How many tons of carbon dioxide went into CO2 emissions average annually? Any takers? Usually I have an arrogant little twerp first year in front going, ah, no, and I'm going to the bottom. Okay? The number is roughly, and on average, 3.2 billion tons. Who is the biggest contributor? That's number 2. Number 1, the United States of America, the home of Toastmasters International. Hi, everybody. Anyone joining from the United States, we love you. We love you. I love to make fun of you, but we love you. All right. The next big contributor would be oil. Then after that, natural gas. The percentage of cars that cars are pushing is 9% total annually. Coal and other industrial forms make up nearly 60%. Yet it's cars that are consistently attacked. There's a few questions that you can start asking yourself. Now, many of you driving, is anyone here from the East Rand? You're not going to like this. All right. Okay. Always remember what Ricky Gervais says. Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Okay. If you're driving towards our wonderful east, and these days also to the west, that wonderful haze that is not sunset that you see there, what is that? Pollution. Particulates. Particulates that are combined because of what? Is it CO2?
Yes.
No, it's not. Any other takers?
Air pollution.
I guess, well, there is air pollution, but what's it?
A lot of it's from fires.
Yes. I'm talking about what's the gas? What's the gas that's causing all the problems? Yes, sir.
Sulfur.
That's one. Number two, NOxes, nitrogen oxides. Why are those two so dangerous and are not getting nearly the airtime or the radio time that they should be getting? They are so dangerous because those two gases have no natural environmental means of being discarded or being sequestrated. We call it being sequestrated. Carbon dioxide can be sequestrated, not at the rates that we're pushing it out, okay? But something can be done about it naturally. We can increase the biomass of plankton, which we are losing at a rate on average of about 1% per year. Do you think that's not a lot? When you know the actual biomass in tons, that's a hell of a lot. Rainforests, we're losing roughly 10,000 hectares a year, and that has actually slowed down. Okay, so now you guys are asking, Nando, you're the oil and gas man. Why are you pushing down oil and gas? Because, guys, it's still necessary. But the guys who produce it are not being forced to clean up their chimneys. Does anybody know the one country that has enforced abatement law in their environmental act? Does anybody know the one country that has actually made it law and is now putting in penalties to make it more expensive for them not to clean the air than to clean it?
Nice.
Yes? Yeah.
One of the Scandinavian countries like Sweden.
No, they couldn't care less. Eh? No. No.
Not Europe as a region for seamen.
Nope. Nope. Guys, let me give you a hint. You live here. South Africa, first country to enforce abatement laws. Medupi couldn't go back online because the then Minister of Environmental Affairs, Barbara Creasy, said, where is your abatement facility? If we make Anglo do it, and we make Samancor do it, and we make everybody else do it, why can't you do it? They can't do it because, well, they're bankrupt, all right? But that's a whole other speech, right? I was part of the commissioning team who put in sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide abatement at Polokwane at the Anglo Platinum smelter in Polokwane. All right? Severely polluted area. When we started it up, we're still having a few commissioning issues, but it is starting up and is running. Those pollutants dropped by how many? By how much percent? Just roughly.
50%.
I hear 50 on the side. Do I hear 75 for what? Don't say 30. 30. We dropped it down by 97.5%. So yes, guys, I am a bunny hugger. Sorry, I'm not a bunny hugger. I'm a bunny eater. I'm a tree hugger. So that is incredibly important because what else did we do? We saved a lot of jobs.
A lot of these greenies who want to say, we need to move over, we need to go green, we need to go renewables, it needs to be done right now. A wonderful Scandinavian, and her name rhymes with Umberg, keeps on saying, you are the ones that are responsible for us not having a future. Congratulations. Are you preferring any solutions? No. And let's talk about these wonderful green technologies. I mean, I love them. They're fantastic. Okay. You guys know lithium batteries, right? Oh, they're fantastic, right? They're great. You can charge them all the way down. Give you 5 years of life. What happens when they're done? Can you recycle them? No. They don't generate a lot of that much carbon dioxide when they're synthesized, when the actual beneficiation is done. But no, they release particulates. They release NOxes, SOxes, and toxic gases, and they're effluent. So effluent is contaminated water that cannot be recovered. Once it's contaminated, it's done. It's so bad, the beneficiation of lithium is so bad that the plants that are being done, that are being put up in France, the French authorities have said, you can mine it. Oh, but can we process it here? No, you must go far away. Where? On the border with Belgium, we don't care about them. Huh? It's fine. They can have out of the air. Huh? It's fine. We like it. Okay. You don't believe me? Go and check it out for yourself, because that's precisely what is happening. Only designated areas can process this stuff. No, but Fernando, we're only talking about batteries. What about wind? Fantastic, let's talk about wind. Rare earth elements. How are they processed? They're also calcined in their beneficiation process. And the wonderful high-efficiency magnets made out of neodymium and dysprosium, once they are beneficiated, the waste that comes out is radioactive. Sure, it's green, glow in the dark green. So, now the next question that all the greenies want to push. We need to get rid of oil. We hate oil. Get rid of oil. Ah, no problem. Mr. Greenie, take your cell phone, throw it out. While you're at it, get rid of your laptop. Get rid of your TV. Get rid of the tires on your green vehicle. Get rid of the electrics in your green vehicle. All of those are made with oil-based or petrochemical-based products. Saying let's get rid of oil is the same as saying let's get rid of iron, let's get rid of copper. Stefan and I will be out of job. So please save my job. Okay. Now let's talk about hydrogen. I really get annoyed with this particular quote. For those who can't read it and for those online, we'll go down in history as the first society that wouldn't save itself because it wasn't cost effective. By Kurt Vonnegut. I have a massive problem with that. It is not cost effective at all. And the thing is, to put in these massive capital projects, who foots the bill at the end of it? Those costs go somewhere. Those consumables go somewhere. Somebody has to pay for it. And you get rid of all of those technologies. Get rid of the existing infrastructure that's there. What about those poor kids that have been relying on their mom and their dad, working at those places, hoping that they'll get a better life because of it?
I'm not painting oil and gas companies and mining companies as saints. Believe me, they're absolutely not. But they do provide the service, they do provide employment. They are there, whether you want to admit it or not. So, I am a huge fan of hydrogen, massive fan of hydrogen. I believe it is definitely the way of the future. There are other green fuels that are derivatives of it, so green methanol, green ammonia. I don't like ammonia so much because, well, if you combust it, you get NOxes, which are very bad, much higher NOxes than what we do now. I'm way over time. We get much higher NOxes than we do at the moment, and much higher, and whereas methanol, and the other problem with ammonia, once it spills, what can you do with ammonia that spills in the ocean? You watch nicely as every single fish dies. I'm a big fan of methanol because what happens if methanol spills into the ocean? You get a bunch of drunk fish. Hey man, I can't swim forward. I forgot I was swimming. Okay. It is a much safer ethanol. And it can be transported. The best part of it, and it's a project that I'm working on at the moment, it's called the Vaal Green Methanol Corridor. I don't like the green part, but you know, the Germans are giving me money, so I say that I like the green part. Okay. The thing about that now, the nice thing about that is the way we produce it is we use wastewater treatment works sludge. It produces carbon dioxide, which we distillate, and it goes into another process that's where the heat is generated. We recycle the heat and we get methanol. All right. The hydrogen comes from electrolysis of the same water once we clean. Okay, so the next one. I will love this. Can we turn on our air conditioning? The batteries need to charge. Nuclear. We need to turn on the air conditioning. I don't care. It is that powerful. Now, there are a lot of myths around this. I'm not even going to ask the question. No, the cooling water is not irradiated. Okay? It is a closed system. They reuse it time and time again. Please, that is total and utter rubbish. But it does have other problems. You generate a lot using very little. Okay? There's no intermittency, but it does generate waste. And after a long time, it starts generating a lot of waste. Japan is dealing with that at the moment. Countries like France and Germany, who have a lot of space and a lot of old mines where they can bury it, don't have as big an issue. So it's not a be-all and end-all. The whole thing is, guys, that there is no silver bullet. But you still have to question, and you don't need a PhD to question this. These numbers that I quoted, 4 different sites gave me 4 different numbers. Which ones do I believe? Which ones do you believe? And this comes to the crux of my discussion. Totalitarianism and ubiquitous assimilation. Ubiquitous, okay. What does ubiquitous mean? Ubiquitous. It is everywhere, it's all around you all the time, you can't get rid of it. Okay? Assimilation, you're constantly absorbing it. Who here has got Facebook? Raise your hands. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok. How many of you doom scroll in the morning when you're taking your morning ablution? Really useful letter word. Right? I'm trying to be nice like the doctor. Okay. You are bombarded by that information constantly because they don't want you to question. Is it a lie? Is it the truth? I purposely did not put down any of the data or information, and I kept you distracted with the way that I speak, because I know I can distract you with the way I speak, and with those funny memes and quotes. This is from a German historian that lived through the Second World War. The aim of totalitarian education, or even propaganda, has never been to instill convictions, but to destroy an individual's capacity to form it. The constant lie is not aimed at making the people believe a lie, but at ensuring that no one believes anything anymore. A people that can no longer distinguish between truth and lies cannot distinguish between right and wrong. And such a people, deprived of the power to think and judge, is, without knowing and willing it, completely subjected to the rule of lies. With such a people, you can do whatever you want. So then I asked the question, the information that I gave you. How green is green? But more importantly, how true is everything that you heard from? Thank you very much, Vanessa, for that wonderful speech. We are running very behind the German media side now. All right, but we will quickly do the times reports. Time is 22 minutes. 22 minutes. Actually, 8 minutes shorter than the normal lecture. Then we're going to ask for the grammarians reports.
Mr. Toastmaster and Fernando could not follow Fernando's English. Well done. However, Fernando, opening the sentences with okay.
Yeah, I know.
There's a couple of R's in there and many so. Other than that, well done. Thank you.
And I received a WhatsApp from our fact checker. So I would like to introduce our fact checker that checks the facts of our speakers, and he just has it went to raise.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, I have been very busy Googling away there at the back. And I have one small thing to challenge Nano on. Lithium pollution in water. You stated that it cannot be cleaned. Would something like reverse osmosis remove the lithium from the water?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, now I've gotten this question before, so part of my work has been in water pollution as well. So the problem with reverse osmosis is, first of all, you need an incredible amount of energy for it to work. But the RO system with lithium can remove the particulate matter. It cannot remove the irradiated damage that's done to the actual molecules. So once it's gone through the RO process, it will no longer seep into the ground, but it cannot be reused. You can't do anything with it. It's still, unfortunately, unused. Okay.
I rest my case.
Thank you very much. We are now, I'm going to ask for consent to pause with the formal evaluation, and we're first going to break for dinner. The dinner is planned for 30 minutes, but we are planning to be back at just about 14 minutes past 8. Thank you very much, Jansen.
If I can ask everyone to just settle down, take a seat. We are about to start again. All right. Welcome back, everyone, from that interlude. I hope everyone is nice and having full tummies and happy. And we are going to then kick off with or continue with our speeches. And up next, we have Vanessa Botha giving us a speech on every day is an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. Vanessa Botha.
Timekeeper, are you ready? It's sunset. We are looking at the waves. There's a slight breeze in the air. We have come to the end of our vacation in the wilderness. My father-in-law turned 70 years old, and he thought, let's spoil the family and let's go for a family vacation. It was so amazing. But we did not know the next day everything would change. We got to the airport, checked in our bags, and boarded the plane. As usual, they go through the safety instructions. Put on the oxygen mask on yourself first before assisting others. How many of you have actually experienced that in your life, where the oxygen mask have actually dropped down? A few of you in the room. As we were approaching Johannesburg after a well-rested week in the wilderness, the captain said, "Air hostesses, to the front now." You would think from their training they would walk calmly to the cockpit, but no, they rushed in panic to the cockpit. A few minutes later, we got the announcement to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, kindly listen up. Our landing gear is not working. We need to brace for impact." Let me paint you a picture. On my left-hand side was my 4-year-old son, looking out the window, playing, having fun, making jokes. On my right-hand side was my 6-year-old daughter, fast asleep, my husband, and my parents-in-law. As they were going through the safety instructions, we were listening, we were like, oh, this is not real. But we could see the panic in the air hostesses' faces. When they said, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before assisting others, my children, I couldn't think of it. But then we started descending. And this is where it got real. The air hostesses strapped themselves in. And they said, ladies and gentlemen, brace for impact. The next 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Because this is what we heard for the next 5 minutes. Immediately, tears started running down my cheeks. My son asked me, what is going on, Mom? And I said, nothing, don't worry, we're playing a game. Keep your head down. A flash of regret came to my mind. What if I died today? What if my children die today? What if my parents-in-law die today? What if I lose my legs today? What are the things that I've always wanted to do? But then I went blank. As we were approaching the runway, we saw the ambulances. We saw the fire trucks driving up next to us. And that's when it got real. Luckily, we did land, and we are safe today. But 2 days later, I realized, listen, this was a near life-death experience. And I'm not going to be the same after this. Every day we wake up as an opportunity. Someone out there did not open their eyes today. We cannot waste even one day of our precious lives. Will Smith has a condition where he says, he has the fear of fear. Whatever you fear today, run towards it. Don't run from it. When I made my bucket list at the age of 18, I actually did the first thing first. What do you think that was?
Do the second thing on the bucket list.
That's a good idea. Skydiving. I did that first, and then I worked through it. I didn't want to be 80 before I started to do my bucket list, like the movie The Bucket List. Who of you have seen the movie The Bucket List? Okay, keep your hands up. Of those of you that have your hands up, who of you have actually written down your bucket list? Wonderful, a few of you. Well done. I would encourage you today to do that. And what I have here in front of me is a little box of tools. But I want to remind you, you need to look after your machine, your body, to live an optimal and healthy life. This is what I do on a daily basis. I educate people on their daily routine and what fits in their lifestyle. First of all, it's all about nutrition. You need to feed your machine to have an optimal life. All of you here has a story to tell. All of you have gone through things in your life that you need to share to encourage someone else. But you cannot do it if you don't have energy, if you are sick, and you need to impact the lives around you. Why are you here? Why are you still here? Why were you saved another day? The second one is why? No, it's water. This was for Paul. It's water, water, water. Your brain is 80% water. Your body is more than 70% water. You need water to hydrate, but also to get rid of the toxins, to think clearly, to have energy, and to be your optimal self. Then thirdly, I went to fetch this from my daughter's bedside table. Sleep. How many of you actually give up sleep to work? How many of you give up sleep to watch a series? Ooh, that was like, guess what? We all have 24 hours in a day. If you break your day up in 8, 8, 8, sleep 8 hours, work 8 hours, what are you doing with the last 8 hours? It's quite scary if you go and analyze it. Use it productively. But you need sleep because sleep deprivation has been linked to diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, chronic illnesses, and the list goes on. So sleep, sleep, sleep. Those people that say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Yes, you will actually subtract about 10 years of your life according to the Sleep Institute. So that is quite scary. I wanted to say, either get a better mattress or a better partner. Okay. Then the next one is exercise. This is interactive. I need 3 suggestions from the crowd. What is the best exercise to do?
Movement.
Yoga.
Give me more.
Assistant training.
More. Okay, more. More.
Flexibility.
Whatever.
No one gonna say the other thing. No, I'm gonna respond as long as it's longer than 60 seconds. Exercise is anything you enjoy doing with an elevated heart rate for more than 20 minutes a day. We were made to move, not to do extensive exercises, not to be, how can I say, I'm surprised I was in CrossFit, and it means whatever you like doing for 20 minutes a day, do it in the morning, do it early, get it over and done with. You will be double as productive as you are currently. It is amazing what you can do. Who's writing your story of your life? Is it your boss? Is it your partner? Is it your kids? Guess what, moms and dads in the room right now? Who of you are moms and dads, parents? How many of you have forgotten the little person inside that is you and not doing any hobbies for yourself? I want to encourage you this week, this evening, go and think, what did you enjoy doing as a hobby? I started doing dancing on a Friday afternoon for 2 hours. My husband started playing tennis on a Wednesday afternoon for 2 hours. And my kids are like, why do you do that? I said to him, because 40 hours of the week we spend on you. 2 hours of the week I want to spend on myself. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to find something that you enjoy doing, because that will give you more energy. That will actually fill up your bucket. And lastly, the day that you, well, it could be two things. I'm a partner. Or, lastly, the day they say your obituary. What are they going to say about you? Are they going to say, oh, she worked 40 hours a week. She worked 12 hours a day. Oh, her boss was amazed by her work. Oh, she was the best worker in the environment. Or, you know what? She gave me a ride with her car. I felt welcome when I was in her home. She picked up the phone when I called her. Another action I want to take you, I'm going to challenge you tonight. Write your own obituary. What do you want people to say the day that you passed on? That little stripe in between your birth and the day you pass on, what is your message? Like Danie says, let your life be your message. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much for that wonderful speech, enlightening, getting the people motivated, even got you off my train of thought. Can I please have the timers report?
Time is 11 minutes, 57 seconds.
11 minutes and 57 seconds. Wow. Let's give you a couple. And then may I ask for the grammarians report?
Toastmaster, thank you. And Vanessa, not one such word, congratulations. I was watching and I could not get one of congratulations. Two tiny things to focus on. You got to the airport, you arrived at the airport, and all of you has a say. All of you have a say. It's a language thing, but well done.
And Mr. Fact Checker, anything from you? All good. All right. We are now going to ask all to get up for our little story time. But while we are waiting for the other room to conclude, I was thinking that we can use this time to do a bit of open floor evaluation. So I want to ask all the speakers that have spoken thus far to just please come to the front. And then, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time that you can give any constructive feedback to any of the speakers that will not be part of the formal evaluation. If we don't have any feedback, then we will take any questions for any of the speakers. Louisa.
That's not good.
Yes, I think it's fine.
You are ready?
For the online community.
Okay. Dr. Sibo, this is for you. It took your evaluation for me to really understand. Okay, you did mention that you going pale and your lips being pink and your fingers being pink. This should have been in the show. We're very insecure about because of finding a partner in life. But I think it also took your evaluator kind of driving that home for me to really understand, connect with the way that you felt in that moment. I think as much as you gave us the information and the facts of what you were going through, I think maybe just even using slightly more emotive words like it was devastating, or something like that, to really give us that true feeling of what you were feeling when you were looking in the mirror, so that we're not detached from it, but we're right there with you. Other than that, amazing speech. I loved your affirmations and your acronyms. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Wow, I like this.
Okay, my question is for Vanessa, and I think everybody is thinking this question. My question, first of all, great speech, I loved it. My question is, what airline was this? Because I'm sorry for what I don't want to people break up
I would just start with say, you can happen to any airline. What I loved about there, it's the first time I've flown I've been over 30 countries in the world. I've flown more than hundreds of times. But what I enjoyed about this airline, I'm not going to say its name, but they were professional. It's not their AFS is good, but the pilot was professional. We were treated with courtesy. We were really pampered and handled with real grace. So I must say, as long as the airline really looks after their passengers, you can fly with any airline. And yes, they actually explained afterwards what happened. The backup landing gear did come out, but the sensor that tells us that the backup stuff came in did not work. So that was the issue.
Yeah.
My question is for, or my comment is for the oil and gas man. So, and I think we all know you are an excellent speaker, but what I've noticed during your speech is that you use it as a crutch. You use it as a crutch. You don't need to focus on the rest because you can distract us with how well you speak. And the first portion of the speech came over very condescending. Now, when you're trying to argue a point, as one of my favorite yearbook comments go, you can catch a lot of flies with honey, but you can catch more honeys while being flies.
Condescension was on purpose.
Good evening. My comment is for Sibongiseni, but it's also for the evaluator. And perhaps I might have missed it because I stepped out for a bit, but it was a comment that one of my colleagues raised. The objective of Sibongiseni's speech was to also facilitate the Q&A session, but I didn't pick up the answer of the Q&A part. So people asked, but I didn't pick up the actual answering back from your side. So I don't know if that was the objective of the speech, to have people just ask, but there's no answering of the questions or what the Q&A session level was. But I think that's the only comment, is that I couldn't pick up the Q&A part of the session.
Thank you.
Good evening. My question is to Vanessa, because for people that have experienced near-life death experience, they say that the life, whatever happens in their life, flashes in front of them. Did you experience that when you are about to die?
They normally say, do not go towards the light. So I did not go towards the light. In short, when it happened and you come to the realization that you might die, when the tears started rolling down my face, I realized my boy was sitting next to me and he's like, Mommy, you're strong. I had to suck it up and pretend that everything was okay, because I did not want to freak him out at the tender age of 6. Be afraid to fly for the rest of his life.
Thank you. My question is for Fernando. In your speech, you made mention of traditional so-called oil and gas and how it provides employment and those kind of things. The question that I have is then, what is your thoughts on the concept of just energy transition?
This will keep us busy.
Have you ever heard of a company called McKinsey & Partners?
Yes.
They're really, really good at making up a lot of bull words and propaganda to get people to believe in whatever lie a particular corporate wants to put together. A just energy transition is, am I being written? Bullshit. Okay, there are ways and means to get through it. Do we need to decarbonize? I'm not entirely convinced. Do we need to defossilize? Yes, we do. Okay, but only in terms of fuel. We can't just we can't just get rid of that. We can't get rid of everything willy-nilly. A transition is required, but using fossil fuels as a basis to step forward. An energy transition can't just happen overnight. It's impossible. So can we speak to the refiners to, instead of closing refineries, start putting abatement in their chimneys, start putting abatement in their systems, start doing carbon capture, start doing nitrogen capture, using the Haber-Bosch process to create ammonia. These are all things that are available. These are technologies that have been around for 30, 40 odd years. The problem is you start to affect their production. So a just energy transition, I think it's pervasive. It's just pervasive again of this assimilation that they have to put in. A generalized transition or an actual gradual transition, yes, for sure. That I definitely do. Thanks.
Okay, my side is for Fernando's feedback. Chat about this is the ability to take a complex technical subject and break it down so that a person who's not in that field is able to understand it. So that for me, it's a good feedback, and I guess it's an opportunity for others as well to come and learn, especially coming from a technical field, and to see how we can make a subject so interesting that someone who's working in that field who does not understand the technical jargon can relate to the subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any last questions, comments? Here we go.
Thank you so much. Mine is for I saw her carrying a green jacket, and I want to use the speech of the second speaker to say how great is great. But for me, I want to say, how dramatic are you, girl? I was expecting you to be so dramatic because I'm a dramatic person. Anyways, to break it down to Toastmasters terms, I feel like you had so many opportunities to use vocal variety, body language, and emotion of what was happening. I remember when you were telling us about your son who asked Mom what's wrong. I believe you can maybe lower yourself and when like use your body language, Mommy, what's wrong? Change your voice a bit, and you become the mom again and answer the questions. So I believe you have so much opportunity to go up and down, use your body language and sing it together. Otherwise, I enjoyed your speech. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Thank you for our speakers. We need to wrap this up. We are on a timeline. We try to wait for the rest of the group, but we need to move on. So can everyone please take their seats? And we will then ask for Dr. Paul Mellor, we asked a round of doctors tonight, to then come tell us.
Thank you. Here's the magic apple. I'll face you for now, but then I'm going to do form a massive faux pas, which is I'm going to turn my back on you in order to tell you this story. So I'll give you a little bit of history whilst we're waiting for the others to come through. This device I have in front of me is about 150 years old, and it's called a Laterna Magica. And this for me started as a hobby when I had my kids were very young. And it's used to display slides in the same way that we would say use a PowerPoint presentation now. But back in the day, you would have slides telling stories. And they could be on sensible subjects, might be on politics or sociology or travel, history, whatever you like. My subject happened to be fairy tales. And so for the first time tonight, whereas all of the other speakers have tried to enthrall you and interest you and bring you into a subject that you maybe know nothing about, I'm simply going to put you to sleep. Whilst we're still waiting for the others, I'll give you a little bit more history about this. This device has a long history within the subject of optics. And for those of you who've listened to me provide a lecture due to a variety of different institutions on the history of vision, neurobiology of vision, psychology of vision, but also on the physical side, the optics, the history of optics. It's a fascinating device in its early setup. And there was a Dutchman, Christian Huygens, who brought this into being in about 1745. So this particular device I use at home fairly frequently still, though it used to be a lot more frequently when my kids were young. For fairy tales, some of you will have heard me talk before on another lecture, which is on the history of fairy tales. And I'm not going to go into that now, but suffice to say that whilst we sit here as adults in this room, and I want you to transport yourself back for a moment to when you were children hearing these fairy tales. And then I want you to transport yourself back further to about the 18th century mid-part thereof, when we had people like Madame Bournoy who coined the term, le conte du fée in French, which means fairy tales. And then I want you to take yourself back even further, and the latest and actually scientific research seems to show that fairy tales stem from about 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. So for those of you who are parents in here and read fairy tales to your children, just think of that as an unbroken line in cross-cultural settings, an unbroken line of storytelling that are very strong archetypal type stories that have been brought across the generations till now. So it looks to me as though the other room is about to come through. So the history lesson ends here. And I think, can I just check for you, is anyone else to come through still? Yes. Yeah, okay. So whilst people are still piling through, does anyone have any questions that I can help answer on this device or anything else for that matter? We'll do it in reverse order whilst people are still coming through. Shannon, do you have a question?
Wow, accessibility spirit tells sometimes be really dark. But they'll speak to me for you tell in one class, one was the sugar the next version of the future world. Any comments about today maybe about that speak evidence released for the overall.
I think it's an integral part of it. I think that it's like complex religious stories. They may be questionable in the parts of the tales that are moral, the light versus the dark. I think that this was early man's way of capturing the complexity of social situations. And so, whereas nowadays in the sort of modern era where we have the Julia Robinson tendency to gloss over things and make everything very positive, the reality is that these were tales that were told to you, and they were complex, mixed moral tales. And they had been told like that, seemingly, for thousands of years. I guess our ancestors didn't continue to do that all the way through to modern times without good reason. Maybe that's just a reflection of life being complex. Is everyone through? Mr. SAA, previous. Okay, thank you. All right, can I set this up so that we sit here? Too loud, I'm speaking through that now. I control the volume. Please, can you shut the doors at the back? I'm afraid for this part of the performance, you really will fall asleep because I can turn all the lights off so that you can see this. That in focus. I'm getting there. We got that in focus at the front. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, far away in a land distant from here, there lived a young girl with her mother and her father, a woodcutter, deep, deep in the forests of Germany. There she played with her young siblings and her friends. And every day she wished to travel through the woods to go and see her grandmother, who she much loved. Now, her grandmother was some distance away, but always looked forward to the young girl coming to visit. And because it was her favorite grandchild, she made for her a coat of the finest red silken material. And so soon throughout the village, she became known as Little Red Riding Hood. Every day she would sport her jacket and travel all through the villages and through the woods to her grandmother. And every day on her way, her mother would say to her, "Take great care, for the forest is a dangerous place, even though you are growing older now, my girl. Never stray from the path, and don't stop to talk to any strangers." And so Little Red Riding Hood would make her way through the forest, carrying her little basket of provisions to give to her grandmother. And she knew that her grandmother, this particular day, was ill, for she had heard it for some foresters' return. And so she was keen to take her some nourishment that would encourage her and make her feel a little more well again. She was minding her own business as she traveled through the forest, when suddenly she heard some strange scratching noises. She turned around in fear, and there before her she saw a huge wolf. The wolf looked her in the eyes and said, "Little girl, what are you doing by yourself in the woods, so far away from home?" "Oh, I'm just going to see my grandma. She's so ill, and I felt so terrible I thought I would bring her some food. That looks very nice, little girl. But don't you know it's dangerous to travel here in the woods by yourself? Sure, but I'm so careful that my mum said that I was almost would stay by the path and should not talk to strangers. What do you think you're doing now? But surely you're the friendliest of animals, and all the animals love me here. And the wolf thought for a minute. And he thought, perhaps if I go ahead, I can have a double feast tonight. And so he left the little girl in the side, but said to her just to distract her, see, if you take a turning here, just through this path, then you'll find your way to your grandmother's house all the more quickly. What she didn't know was that he took the path directly and ran straight to her house. And there he knocked on the door. And inside, the grandmother said, hello, who's that? And the wolf, in his best little Red Riding Hood voice, turned around and said, it's ridiculous. Well, open the latch and step inside, young girl. So the wolf carried on, and he opened the latch, and he went inside, and he found the grandmother looking sick in bed. And he dived onto the bed and swallowed her right up. Now then, he went to the cupboard. He decided that he would dress up like my mama, putting on her spectacles, putting on her little bonnet. Looking at himself in the mirror, he felt confident that he was going to fool the young girl. And so he waited in her bed, lying, filled now with meal number 1, grandmama. Was it as good as the curry Pretoria boys had? Now, as it happens, young little Red Riding Hood arrived at the door, and she had no idea it had taken so long to get there. She felt that this wolf had put her on the wrong track altogether, which of course he had. And she knocked on the door, and the wolf said, oh, is that little Red Riding Hood? Do come inside, in his best grandmother voice. So she came in, sporting her bag load of goodies. And when she went in, she thought her grandmother looked terribly sick, really sick. She pulled the covers up over her face. Oh, my grandmama, you really look very ill. So strange. Wow, what big eyes you have. All the better to see. Grandmama, as she came closer to the bed, it seems to me that your ears have changed. Is that part of your condition? Or the better to hear you with, my darling grandchild? And then she stepped closer, closer still. As she got closer, she saw the snarling teeth. Oh, my grandma, your teeth look very, very poorly as you lie there in bed. How big they are. Oh, the creature to eat you will. And she leapt out of the bed and ran towards Little Red Riding Hood to dispatch her as quickly as she had a grandma. Fortunately, Little Red Riding Hood was quite the little athlete, and so she ran around the bed and under the bed and over the bed and under the bed and around the bed, and she was screaming out. And luckily for her, her father, the woodcutter, was close by with his colleagues, and so they ran over, hacked down the door, got inside, knocked the wolf on the head, and that was the end of the wolf before Little Red Riding Hood could be gobbled up. Now, fortunately, the wolf wasn't so badly injured. In fact, they took him to a not so very good vet in Pretoria, and he was really I'm a veterinary surgeon, by the way. And so the vet saved him with some concoctions and some magic pills, and the wolf was introduced into a circus where he lived out the rest of his days. But of course, the family of Little Red Riding Hood and Little Red Riding Hood herself lived happily ever after.
Could we have the lights, please?
Thank you all for that very entertaining story. I think it was well worth the wait. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this now is going to be near the closing ends. Thank you for staying so much later. We just want to have a little feedback from our general evaluator, which is Dana, correctly. So if we have a general evaluator here, if you're ready, and I just call you for the general evaluation. Oh, you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed this evening. I was in this meeting and in the other room, and in both rooms, I saw really good speakers. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and just a format of so many people, some that I know, some that I can recognize also, that they are Toastmasters and has gone through the same journey that we did, starting out with that scary icebreaker and then later on becoming established speakers. I love the way that the president set expectations clearly up front. It told us the difference between the rooms and told us what to expect in every room. So that sort of, I think especially for the guests, but even us, it was my first time in this type of meeting, and for me to understand also what was happening. We had a great motivational introduction by our Mr. Division Director, which gave me just more energy after a long day and thinking how I'm going to get ahead, and just that vision that we got and shared the vision as well. And even helped us to understand the place of this type of meeting as well in that vision. So, and just to support that vision, that was great to see. Some advice maybe for the microphone. I know that the first speaker specifically, so maybe if there's a bit of a guidance before it comes on, that will help, because that was quite disturbing, the sound that we had quite a few times. But I think in the previous meeting you did have a little bit of that. It is great to have the microphone though, and in this big setting, definitely it's important, and it's also good to learn to use a microphone. I remember first time I heard my own voice in the speakers, that was daunting. Like, who's that? I saw a few requests on the chat for the Zoom link, and eventually I saw Fernando posted it about 10 to 7, or was it 10 to 6? 10 to 7. So I think that would be good to share that clearly. I know it was in the poster, but I think that could have helped our online audience. Definitely, I would imagine some people tried and then gave up within those first 15 minutes of the meeting and so on. There was a bit of delay in Fernando's speech with the technology. It's always a problem with technology, and I know you've done quite a bit to prepare and to have everything ready, but I think that's the nature of the technology. A suggestion I may have, something to consider, I know it's a bit harsh, but specifically in the expert room to consider, is the timekeeper abruptly stop the speech by a pause after a certain time. So maybe your speech is supposed to be 15 minutes long, up to 15 minutes, maybe then 16 or 17 minutes, just start the applause. Just for that, because that's probably one of the worst things to happen, is if one speaker goes way beyond their time. So there's something to suggest to please treat it on that time, and that's one way to suggest it. And also being in the expert room or the main room, I think that's treatment that you can understand, is to learn to keep to the time. I then joined the newbies room and found really good speakers on that side. And even one admitted that they were there out of fear. They knew they should have been in this side. And I must say, after seeing the speeches on this side, I would have been horrified to speak in this speech. But even on that side, there were some really, really good speeches on that side. The grand body gestures and all that. What I did enjoy that side as well is the shorter speeches. It was good to hear the two long speeches that I heard. It gets a bit long, so I would something to consider. I'm not planning this meeting, but something I felt is maybe if we could have only one longer speech and the other one shorter, like maybe the length of the Ridingwood's journey. So that's just something that I felt, and I think that could have saved a bit of our time. And the story at the end was absolutely entertaining. I felt like a child there next to me there, just to follow that, and the old technology even, that was something I thoroughly enjoyed. It just made this evening something different. Maybe something for the guests in the expert room is to just make them sure, I know you did explain to them, but just sort of explain to them, this is not how we will evaluate you. That's not how you're going to be. That's how you're going to end up. You're going to start I'm also maybe that person that wants to make people feel safe, but just to make it sure for them that you're not going to start, or you don't need to be like Sibongiseni. You're going to end up like it. You're going to start being afraid, and this is a safe place to grow. I think that's maybe something to just make clear for the guests. And maybe you did, I just didn't listen. Yeah, I think that's what that's sort of my feedback, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you, Mr. President, for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone for coming, and now we'll officially hand over to Mr. President to close the evening for us.
I'll keep this brief, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the evening as much as I have as well. We're very willing to change the format, and we're trying to support it as much as possible through division and elsewhere. I look forward to seeing you on your territory too, and we would come and actively support you if we can. You know that I'm very keen on the idea of joining forces. I've delivered that talk to a number of clubs over the last year. I think if you reflect on the content and the form of tonight, this is what public speaking should be. We'll improve on this format tonight so that there will be more time for evaluation and questions. But I think this is what it should be. It shouldn't be 4 or 5 people in a room, and it shouldn't always be superficial. So take that away with you, if you will, and then let's work together to try and make something that's stronger and better. We are in an urban centre, we are in a capital. I think it is beholden on us to try and make it as good as possible for new members and for long-standing members. Thank you for your participation tonight, and good night.
Yeah,